Today we have a deck that I never thought was going to be good enough to showcase or feature, and that is a Golem deck, specifically the Mythic Island release of Golem, and he is really, really cool. I just didn't think he was ever going to be good enough to beat the Mewtwo's that were super, super common. However, in Ursa Day's most recent tournament, it was 1,500 players over several different rounds. A Golem deck came in first. It beat all of them, and looking at his match runs, he faced several Gyarados decks, several Pikachu decks, several Arcanine or Moltres decks. The one thing that he didn't face was Celebi decks, which I think would maybe be a bit tougher of a matchup for us, but everything else feels pretty good. Mewtwo doesn't necessarily feel favored, but it feels very much in line. Depending on who gets their lucky draws first, who gets online first, we can do some weird kind of pivoting to find ways to win that matchup. So Nino Leo won Ursa Day's tournament with this list, and I decided to take it for a spin and had an absolute blast with it. I loved the look of Golem. I just didn't think he was going to be good enough to really hold up against everything else that was out there and doing well. But the way that this one does that is we run the base set version of Geodude, so it's a 1 energy attack. We use the Mythic Island version of Graveler and Golem. Golem having that 4 energy 120 damage attack that reduces damage that you take from a Pokemon's attack that next turn by 30, which can be so useful, and he already has a lot of health. The only thing that can one-hit KO him is going to be a Charizard, which if that happens, it's unfortunate. We have other ways to deal some damage onto the Charizard at the same time, so it all may not be lost. We have the Druddigon, which is our stall tool. I have found so much use and have enjoyed Druddigon so very much. Druddigon being able to be that front line to just slow down the pace of the opponent's gameplay, or even if it doesn't, even if they're still attacking pretty frequently, what it's doing for us is applying a little bit of damage so that then Pokemon that may have been out of one-hit KO range from our Golem or our Marshadow are now susceptible, so that we can pivot into those after the Druddigon gets killed, and then we can kind of clean up what he already kind of pre-damaged. And since I spoke of him, Marshadow is such a pressure or threat on that back line. You throw him onto your bench, you throw 1 energy onto him, and then you wait. You can keep building up everything else as you're waiting for one of your Pokemon to die, and since our deck runs all non-EX Pokemon, we're going to have more Pokemon die than a normal deck before we're fully lost, and so sometimes Marshadow can kind of sneak in, pop a 100 damage KO, sneak out, wait for the next one to die, sneak back in, do another 100 damage, and just is so much pressure for a basic Pokemon. However, we only want 1 copy of him because the kind of bread and butter is the Geodude, Graveler, Golem, and Marshadow doesn't really shine when it's only him on the board. We need, the Golem. We need the Druddigon. And so Marshadow is great to have in that back line, but we don't want to kind of cloud it up too much. And speaking of the back line, we also have 1 copy of Hitmonlee. Hitmonlee I like to save in my hand as a surprise drop, especially just on regular matchmaking, because they don't know your deck. You can sometimes have that Hitmonlee hidden in your hand. You wait until you attack their Mewtwo with Golem, and then next turn they pivot, knock you out. They have a 30 HP Mewtwo in the back line. You put something into the active slot, you drop your Hitmonlee, attach an energy, retreat out whatever was in that active slot, and then you finish off or win the game with your surprise Hitmonlee tech, taking out the Mewtwo that they thought was safe in the back line. Super, super fun way to pull it off and pull off wins that you honestly may not have been able to do otherwise. And overall, the Golem line feels great. Once you get it online, it's always amazing, but sometimes it's going to take a little bit to find the resources that you need. And so that is where Druddigon and Marshadow come in to kind of apply that early pressure anyways, as you're waiting to find your Geodude, Graveler, Golem. As far as trainers, we get 2 Brock, 2 Leaf, so that we can retreat out the Druddigon as kind of a surprise pivot into like the Golem once he's online. We have 2 Professor's Research, 2 Pokeballs, 1 Giovanni, and 1 Potion. These can come in pretty handy, so if they have a Mew in the front line, and they knock out your Druddigon, and that puts them down to 110, you can pivot into the Marshadow, apply the Giovanni, and you can one-hit KO the Mew that they thought was probably safe from that revenge attack, but you can knock him out nonetheless. And so it's another piece of that kind of surprise element where when you have that resource, it can be super, super helpful. Same thing with the potion. Sometimes it's going to put you just outside of KO range where you can then get another attack off, and sometimes that's honestly all that you need. We're going to go ahead and jump over into a couple of games. Thank you guys, as always, for being here. I hope you guys enjoy. continually kind of just chipping away at that built-up Golem. And then Marshadow is gone. And that's their first point. We're ahead on points. And we have the beef, just the beef tanks out. So it's going to be really hard for them to do much of anything. Let's Brock build up, and then we'll attack. Even if they could somehow take down our Golem, we had another one almost ready to go. We'll take the concede. Let's jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Eddie. We are going to be going first, so we get the first opportunity at an evolution, but they get the first chance at an energy attachment, which as a psychic deck is a little bit scary. They have their Mew off the jump, also a little bit scary, because that Golem does not like to see the Mew come down and copy his attack, because then we can't potentially one-shot the Mew anymore with a Giovanni. So then we're really susceptible. Us having Giovanni in hand is good. We need to find Graveler early, honestly, to even have a shot, I think, of winning this thing. With Druddigon, we can do or apply a little bit of that chip damage. But since we had to start Geodude, it honestly depends on what and how we draw. So they have the Ralts, they have Mythical Slab, which does pull a Psychic Pokemon. They have Mewtwo. Very quickly down to 10 cards left in their deck. Another Mythical Slab, which also pulls a Psychic Pokemon. Well, we had a good run, boys. We had a good run. I just don't think it's going to be for us. We have the full Golem evolution line. But since we didn't attach the energy first, we're behind that curve. And so even with a Brock, it's still gonna take one extra turn. They have the Kirlia, which honestly doesn't surprise me. A second Mew, which this does surprise me a little bit. We have the Druddigon comes in. Let's go here, here. Evolve into the Golem, hit him with a Brock. Then we see. We still haven't drawn much of our deck, unfortunately. And they're down to the last 7. I mean, I assume they have the Gardevoir. Like, I don't see a world where they don't. I guess there's a world where it's in the bottom 7 where they don't. And I guess that world is here. It's now. Let's go ahead and hit him with a... that's fine. Let's hit him with a Giovanni. So we can one-hit KO the Mew. Then we can survive or tank the Mewtwo attack. We have the 120 damage that we'll do to the Mewtwo afterwards. So we just have to find another way to do some kind of damage. And that's largely because we were able to get our Golem online so quickly. Otherwise, I don't even know that we are in a position that we have a shot. But right now, we are in a position where we might be able to have a shot. And I like the Hitmonlee as a way to, if they, if they pivot the Mewtwo out onto the back line. If they pivot the Mewtwo out onto the back line, once he has 30 damage, we could hit him with a pivot from the Druddigon into the Mewtwo into the KO. Is one of my favorite maneuvers with this deck, is using that Hitmonlee as like a last turn just unfortunate counter. Or we have the Marshadow here, so that's fine too. Being able to attach the 1 energy, we go ahead and do Guard Press. Once they knock out our Golem, we pivot into that 100 damage attack. It's only going to give them 1 prize. And then we have the Marshadow that's going to apply more pressure to that front line, whatever their front line one is at that point. As we dig for, they'd have to do some damage against Druddigon. we dig for Hitmonlee. We've done both of our Pokeballs, but we still have a Professor's Research bearing down there. Wait. They couldn't do it. They couldn't even... they didn't even get a chance to knock out the Golem, unfortunately. Let's go ahead and Guard Press. We had that 9 -30, so their Psychic attack, or their 2 energy attack, only did 20. And so we survived. I didn't even fathom a scenario where Golem survived that. We'll take the win against Mewtwo because they couldn't find Gardevoir. Had they found Gardevoir, I still think we had a shot. I just think it became a little bit trickier to maneuver. We'll take it. Let's jump over into the next one. All right, we are going second here. I'm going to make sure that they have Pokemon in the back line. I think. I don't know. Sometimes I like to save Hitmonlee as like a surprise last turn type of thing. But in this case, I guess we're just going to throw Hitmonlee. We're going to throw 1 Geodude and call it a day. We're going second, so we're attaching the... we are attaching the first energy. I do wish we would have went Geodude now, because we could attack. Since we're going second, we could attack, evolve into the Graveler, attack. Well, it is what it is. Let's see if they send a second Pokemon onto the bench, because they did get the Pokeball. So if they're going to be looking to like evolve like a Vulpix or something, I assume they do. And that's going to be enough to trick me. Honestly, it'll trick me. That's going to be enough to trick me into adding an energy onto the Hitmonlee. I'm throwing the second Geodude so we can protect one that we're going to start building up for the Golem. And then we attack the backline Ponyta. Unless they knock us out this turn, heal the Ponyta, evolve the Ponyta, then we'll be able to knock it out in the backline. Vulpix, okay. So it looks like just a full-on like Blaine Thresher deck. And I assumed that they don't have 2 Rapidashes, so I assume we're safe to be able to knock out that backline Ponyta. Good. We do get Brock, so we can add the extra energy onto the Geodude once we evolve it into Graveler. That is great to know. We actually had a beautiful draw, because right now we haven't had any Pokeballs. We haven't had any Professor's Researches, and we have a phenomenal setup in our hand. We get the 1 easy point, which anytime you can get an easy point is amazing. And that's why Meowth doesn't really cut or make the cut, because he is such an easy like knockout most of the time. And you really want to try to conserve any tokens that you can, as long as you can. So they're going to retreat out the Ponyta for the Vulpix. Are they going to do... We're going to do Tail Whip to see if they can stop us from attacking. I assume that they have a Ninetales. Yeah, they do have a Ninetales, but they can't attack with the Ninetales this turn. That's okay. The second Brock is nice to see. Golem. Energy. I'm going to save the Brock as a surprise, because I think that's fun. We're going to surprise him and use the Brock to get Golem where he's online and attack in attack range next turn. We're going to make them think that maybe we can't attack next turn. Maybe their Ninetales is going to be safe, but that is not going to be the case. We're going to let them get the 1 easy prize, and then that's all that they're going to be able to get. No matter how many evolutions or what they have in the back line. Golem, unless it's like a Charizard level attack, Golem can tank. And he's going to be slapping that 120 attack every single turn and just be absolutely massive while he does it. And so the Blaine aggro deck did not quite have enough aggro to be able to hold us down. Even if they had a Blaine that does a max of 120, we're going to put it down to a max of 90, which I love to see. And so the Golem, I guess, no, their Ninetales is going to be gone. The Rapidash could do up to 130 if it hit its heads and it had Blaine. We're going to put it down to a max of 100. So even if we didn't have the damage reduction, absolutely fine. Like, we would still be able to tank whatever they did. There is the Blaine. And we'll see if they hit the heads. I don't like decks that rely so heavily on like the heads or tails for a very limited number of flips, because it is so reliant on getting those good flips to perform well. And so obviously that is not going to perform well consistently. Now, let's go ahead and just guard press the Rapidash. We'll finish off the game, and we're going to go ahead and take it. Let's jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Kiash. We are going second, so the first energy attachment. Actually, in those scenarios, I don't mind starting with Geodude, because then we can attack with Geodude turn 1, evolve into Graveler if we have it turn 2, and attack with him. If we have Golem plus Brock, we can go with the big Golem attack on that third turn. But with them running a fire deck, we know... Okay. I was going to say Druddigon is a decent start, but they have 2 Pokemon. So I'm going to go ahead and start Hitmonlee here instead. And see if maybe that's a Charmander and this is a Moltres. Okay, no, it's back. Okay, they're both Charmanders. But this is a Moltres, Charmander, Charizard deck. If we can take out the Charmander, they lose a huge piece of their puzzle. So we get the Professor's Research. Let's go ahead and do that. They can evolve into Charmeleon on this first turn if they happen to have it to protect that backline one. But then once Charizard gets online, he's going to have some chip damage on him. I don't know if it makes a difference because Charizard has so much health and his attacks do so much damage. But it's nice. It's a nice thought that we are already whittling them away. The Sabrina, okay, is a little bit mean. That's fine. We have Leaf that we did draw, and so we're going to pivot because I don't think they're going to evolve. Ooh, they evolved their front line into Charmeleon. So we're going to pivot and take out that back line Charmander, which I absolutely get a huge kick out of. So no Golem or no Geodude, I guess. We have Golems and we have Brocks. Treat out the Druddigon for the Hitmonlee. We start building up the Marshadow here. Then we're gonna stretch right into the back line and take out the Charmander. We do, however, need to find a Geodude and a Graveler. And so whether that be through Professor's Research, a Pokeball, whatever it is, we need to start being able to build up the Geodude. Because now, the only thing we have that can attack is a Graveler. Is a Marshadow, which we don't really like to see. I'm going to retreat the Hitmonlee for the Druddigon, and I'm going to actually build on... I'm going to build one onto the Druddigon, just in case we ever need to pivot. We can add one and retreat it. I don't think we're ever going to get to that scenario, but I also don't really need to add on to Marshadow or Hitmonlee. So if they do Fire Claws, we're going to do a little bit of chip damage. Wow, they have the Charizard EX. So we are going to do a little bit of chip damage. Oh no, they're not going to attack. They're just going to wait until they have the Crimson Storm. Okay. I wish we could do Brock on like a Graveler. That would be phenomenal. I also wish we would have added onto the Marshadow. Now that we drew, like we top decked that Geodude. Because it'll be 200... 160... Yeah. Yeah, we're not going to have enough. If we attached onto the Marshadow, next turn we could bring Marshadow in, do 100 damage, and still build onto the Geodude so that we'd have Graveler ready to go. I messed up. I whiffed super, super hard when I decided not to build. Okay, never mind. Okay, I'm going to hop off my, my soapbox because we are saved. Because they want to build extra energy onto the Charizard, which makes sense before they start dropping those bombs. It makes sense. But that's going to give us an extra time to build up our Graveler / Golem, and I think they're going to be out of luck once they get to the place where they can attack. And so let's do The Energy on Graveler we end. Now I assume that they knock us out against the Druddigon. Maybe they skip one more turn. Either way, they're just kind of hurting themselves. They do go Crimson Storm. They wanted to build it up enough so that they had enough to do a secondary Crimson Storm the following turn. But we have the Marshadow coming down. And if they force us into a pivot, we sacrifice the Hitmonlee. We could also sacrifice the Druddigon, I guess. So let's go ahead and throw him out. We build onto Marshadow. We have Brock, so even if we wouldn't attach energy directly onto the Golem either of the next couple of turns, we can build him up. And so Marshadow is that deadly backline ninja with the revenge attack, doing 100 damage, getting ready and expecting to die, but wanting to put in enough chip damage so that we can destroy whatever it is after that. And so they get the Moltres. Do they decide to pivot here? I'm curious. Either way, I think we finish them off immediately after. So add the one onto the Moltres, the X speed retreat. Okay, that's fine. Honestly, and then a Growlithe. Ooh, so they could always sacrifice a Growlithe, right? If they wanted to, or maybe it evolves into an Arcanine. How many? Oh, okay, 2 out of 3. Pretty good. That is actually very, very good. All right, let's hit him with a second Brock here. We're gonna Brock their world. And they didn't add on to the Charizard because they know that he's weak. So they added on to the Growlithe, but that allows us to have the Golem, and nothing can one-shot us next turn. Absolutely nothing. And so he has enough to attack. We're going to add on to the Marshadow so that it is up and ready and functional. And we just go ahead and start pressing him. That Marshadow being that like backline threat is so much stronger, and not enough to really necessarily run 2 of them, but super strong as just applying that massive pressure. So if they go ahead and pivot, whoa. They pivot and then they can't attack with the Arcanine. Super rough. They're trying to think of or find any potential out or weakness that we might have. I just don't think they're going to find it. Moltres? Okay, so then next turn, they can pivot out of the Arcanine into the Moltres. But they still only have 1 token so far. And so we're just going to be able to build up. I'm going to build maybe onto the Golem. So if we ever need to like retreat him out, throw something else as a sacrifice, and then bring him back in and still be able to attack, I'm going to go ahead and build onto the Golem just for giggles. Because we have a leaf, so if we get forced into a Druddigon line, we can retreat it. So now if they attack with the Arcanine, he's gone. If they pivot him out, actually, wait, is this one? Oh man, we could have won last turn. What are we doing? We could have swept last turn with our Hitmonlee. Hitmonlee back here had lethal. So they go Inferno Dance. We're not going to give them an opportunity. We're going to go ahead and take the lethal this time around. But oof. Okay. Even if not, like worst case scenario, they knock out our Golem, and then whatever it is, we come back in with like a Marshadow and clean up. Worst case scenario. We have 1, so go ahead and treat it out for the Hitmonlee. We're gonna go ahead and stretch on into the back line. Force the retreat. We'll take it. Let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. All right, so we are going first. We get the first potential evolution. That is fine. We have the double Druddigon. We're not going to be able to evolve anything. They go Venipede, so it is a poison line. Poison with the Venoshock for that Scolipede evolution. I ran a Scolipede Weezing, and I liked it if I was able to find that stage 2 consistently. It's just I wasn't able to find it consistently enough for it to feel good. Unfortunately, our Pokeball finds our 1 copy of Marshadow versus our 2 of Geodude. So we'll see. I like to save the Hitmonlee as a surprise, to be able to like take something out that is pivoted and is hiding in the background. But we'll see. I doubt that they attack with the Venipede, because then we're going to be doing the same damage to them as they do to us. The Coughing, the Venipede, very good start for them with all of those, because now they just need the Weezing to be able to have that poison damage online. And they do go ahead and attack with the Venipede, which is a bit surprising to me, honestly. But, all right, we draw the Geodude, or the Golem. Oh, man, I can't talk today. We draw the Golem, which is not helpful for us by any means. Let's attach onto the Marshadow and skip. We have a potion. I don't think we apply the potion yet. They do have a Whirlipede. They are going to go ahead and poison us, which makes them take that additional 50. It's okay. With the Marshadow that we have in the background, they have to try to finesse it in a way that us ending our turn causes our Druddigon to die. That way, we don't have a turn to really react with the Marshadow. And I think that's like what would be their like ultimate goal. So let's go ahead and end. It's 40. We can build up the Marshadow. We have the Geodude. We drew Graveler. We have Golem. We have that beautiful evolution curve. They go with their Professor's Research as well. We got lucky getting both Professor's Researches. Okay, so into the Venipede and the Weezing. Do they pivot out of the Scolipede? No. Wait, why? Are they going to attack? Whoa, my friend. That is a very big, bold thing. With us having that Marshadow, I feel like that is a big mistake. Because now Marshadow comes in, we add the 1 energy we need to onto him, and knock him out. So Graveler. We have a bunch of stuff, but nothing that's necessarily needed. Knock out the Scolipede, which is a lot of work for that stage, for that basic stage 1, stage 2, and they just let it go. They won't be able to finish us off with the Weezing this turn, so we just pivot into the Druddigon. So then we have another stall wall until we get Golem online. Super unfortunate. I think they should have maybe pivoted into like the Weezing. Did the base attack, had whatever, because then most of the time we wouldn't be able to one-shot the Weezing with our Marshadow. We did have Giovanni, so in this case we would have, but they have the Tauros. This looks like the exact version that I was running, and I wanted to do a video on, but in my testing it did great. I sat down and my luck was just abysmal. I couldn't get the cards that I needed, and so then I decided to scrap the idea altogether. That was a couple of days ago, though. So let's build onto the Brock, or build onto the Golem with the Brock, build onto the Golem. We now retreat into the Druddigon. And I think, honestly, no matter what happens, we're like, if they force us into a pivot into Marshadow, we one-shot whatever it is with the Golem, and we're good to go. We have Leaf, so if they don't, and let's say they just pass, then we can retreat out the Druddigon into the Golem, and we win that as well. Whirlipede, that is pretty big for them to be able to find that. With 7 left, their second stage 1 for that evolution, and that was pulling the basics out with only 1 Pokeball. Pretty good draw luck. He is going to attack with the Weezing, which I guess it is what it is. It's we're not gonna. I guess we're not gonna finish off the game here, are we? That's okay. Let's go Leaf. I believe we can do it. We're not gonna let them get a Koga down to retreat that Weezing. We're not gonna let them build the Tauros, which we don't have any EX Pokemon that we are running, and so it's not gonna. The Tauros doesn't do as much as it honestly would otherwise. So now they pivot into what? Their Scolipede evolution? Scolipede evolution I don't think would do it. They hit us with the retreat. We'll go ahead and take it. Let's jump over into the next one. All right, we are going first once again, which if I've said it once, I've said it probably more than once, honestly. But I don't care to go first with this deck. We are going against a Pikachu deck, and this deck does pretty well against Pikachu from what I gathered. I haven't got to like experience it personally, but because honestly playing in the Emblem event, Pikachu decks are relatively rare to find, but I think it does do pretty well, especially with the Golem that's just a big tank. Being able to tank those shots and then return fire with the one-hit KO of Pikachu, it's just so nasty against what they typically, or their strengths and where they typically lie. And also with the Druddigon, that slows them down and kind of hinders them quite a bit. They're not able to one-shot that Druddigon. Now, I do kind of hope we get another basic. Okay, it's okay. We do have the Graveler. We're looking for Golem at this point. Golem would be big because we do have the Brock to be able to start adding onto. A Professor's Research so that we dig further into our deck could be good. But right now, we have a little bit of... We can breathe a little bit easier, knowing that if they hit us with Sabrina, which a lot of times the Pikachu deck does not run Sabrina. If I remember right, it's been a while since I've had to face very many Pikachu decks, because there's so many decks that do well now that just kind of go over the top of the Pikachu decks, it seems like. Now, of course, the Gyarados deck that's floating around just gets pummeled by Pikachu, but I think the Fire one does very, very well. I think the Mewtwo actually has the leg up. Oh, they help us out here with the red card. Thank you, my friend. Give us a Professor's Research. Give us a Golem. Beautiful. We don't have our Brocks anymore, but we do have the Golem evolution line. And that is all I could ask, because there's no telling where that was in our deck before. We still have both Professor's Researches. That's good. Start applying some chip damage onto it. We get Marshadow, which I love. I love the little Marshadow. As long as their Pikachu that's in the front line is damaged at all, we can come in and one-shot it with the Marshadow. So let's go ahead and do the Golem build-up. Until we get him fully online, I'm going to build up the Golem. I know that we could... actually, no. What are we doing? Why did we do that? We should have built onto the Marshadow to apply the pressure against them knocking out our Druddigon here, right? What are we doing? Sheesh. A fumble if I've ever seen one. Yep. It's a big fumble from us. It is what it is. I could have knocked out their Pikachu EX. They would have only had one left, giving us 2 more turns to find a Brock to get this guy online. 90 would bring us down to 70. And maybe a potion or whatever. I don't know. We're going to lead with the Golem. All right, so we get another Druddigon play. Let's go ahead and end it. We're going to let them attack us with the Pikachu. It's unfortunate. Super unfortunate. Oh, I'm so just disappointed in myself for missing that. Like, the Marshadow was so much a better play, and I've always put the one onto the Marshadow to apply that pressure, but It is what it is. They go with a Giovanni, so they do 100 damage to us, bringing us down to 60, even with a 30 reduction, unless we got a potion, would one-hit KO us. But the potion should put us just outside of that one-hit KO range, which is very much needed. I mean, whew, we will gladly take the potion. Let's go ahead and press them with our guard here. They have the backline Pikachu built up, but they're going to do 60 damage, 70 damage with a Giovanni. So then we can just turn around and guard press again. Potion came in huge. Now, they probably, if they're wanting to try to find some way to still be in the game, they probably pivot the Pikachu EX into the Zapdos. It will do 0 damage because we have that 30 damage reduction. Ooh, Sabrina. Okay. They only have one... They only have one token here. I'm going to do Marshadow. Like, we can sacrifice the Marshadow. It's not an EX. If they don't attack us, then we just pivot him out for the Golem. Okay. I'm not sure where they thought that was going. We will take the win, and that is actually where we're going to go ahead and end the video. Thank you guys, as always, for being here. This has been TLSG. Later, guys.